The guys, all they got to do is do, when they compete, wear a pair of banana hammocks and board shorts. But y'all ladies, there's a lot more for y'all because you have to present not just the muscle, but also the femininity. You look at presentation. If you, depending on what division is, from wearing your makeup, your hair, your jewelry, high heels, your tanning has to be nice. Then you have to wear these suits that cost you a lot. And
Mm,
I think it's so much more for y'all compared to the men.
yeah, that's true. I mean, there's a lot of, expense associated with it. And I think, we kind of get caught up and like we have to have, the best suits and, you need more and more like crystals. And it's amazing, how much these suits can cost. And, in reality, it should be about, the body. So, certainly the bling, catches a lot of attention and it's beautiful. But I think, we really have to also be conscious that, it's the physiques under the crystals. And, but it's definitely between, the travel and, the food and all of the costs, it can be an expensive sport, that's for sure. But you know, like for someone like me, I don't go on a lot of, vacations or cruises or, that's kind of where I choose to spend my money, uh, just because it's what I like to do. So,
Yeah. Well, my other guy, like to say, I like what's under those jewelry and the bikinis too. But yeah, there's a lot to it. Here we got a comment from my man KL, the Wonder coming through. He says, "Do you work on flexibility at times? Like, is that an important part of your training, flexibility?"
yeah, it definitely, is important. So, I mean, both flexibility and mobility, are very key because, especially if you do a lot of weight training, it's something that I think we oftentimes, neglect, but you really have to kind of have that, um, holistic approach to fitness and training. So uh, the flexibility is very important, and it's something that I do work with, the clients that I have, and the mobility is very important. And I'm finding I have a lot of clients that come in that are in perimenopause, menopause, and um, they're just really like feeling like their doctors are just dismissing any of the symptoms that they are feeling, and you really have to train differently if you are feeling certain symptoms, and really you know realize that different people have different needs, and um, really work with people, um, just in relation to that, to what they're feeling. So and similarly, if people are tight, they have hip mobility, uh, ankle mobility issues when they're trying to squat. You really have to identify those and work with people to improve that, because you don't want someone to get injured.
Mm-hmm. Honestly, I got two bad knees like Stone Cold Steve Austin. Other parts of me because I'm getting older, worked most of my life. I need to see a specialist because I was seeing a specialist for a good while, getting shots, but those things are expensive when you're paying out of pocket. And yeah, it is a lot. And I see that you are in your gym. How long you been a coach and a trainer, and when did you start your gym?
So in 2014, I actually opened up a CrossFit. I owned a CrossFit for 5 years, and it was super intense. And it was you know, really expected as the owner that I could, do everything. I would have to be the best. And, after doing that for 5 years, I just, really felt like I'd be more um, a fit with like training people individually or small groups, because I think it's all about education and making sure that people understand how to lift safely, what they should be feeling, mind muscle connection, isolation, all of these principles that you are not learning if you go into a big box gym. You go through maybe one orientation and then hey, you're on your own and you're not really sure if you're doing the right thing, or people are waiting for this machine, I guess I'll stop what I'm doing. So a lot of times people just stop going. So I really, I just wanted a place where people could feel comfortable and have a connection and support, and that would make them want to keep coming back. So that that's really why I decided to start this, and I just have a passion for the education. Um, so I was working in the corporate world for a long time. I did the CrossFit, went back to the corporate world, and then I just decided that, hey, what do I really want to do with my life? I want to do something that I feel, has meaning. So I love it, just to be able to kind of have people have those aha moments, and it's pretty cool.
No, you work the corporate world. So what do we do in the corporate world?
I was an HR director.
Oh, so if I if
Yeah, so that's
well,
why it worked out.
yeah, I didn't work in corporate. I worked more like in factories like that. We had HR, but you're like you can be saying like you can't say anything to Becky, like say, hey Becky, you got a nice George, you got HR. I say, oh, shit. I say, who I talk to? Oh, it's Nancy. Nancy? Okay, I don't have a problem talking to Nancy. Yeah, because I think that is a kind of a stretch because you got to deal with people and personalities, and you need something really to take the stress and work it out is a thing. We got here from my man Lawrence Burke coming through. Shout out to Lawrence. Appreciate you, brother. Says good afternoon, Miss George. I mean, see, Miss Nancy and George. Everyone on the chat, appreciate that, brother. Also, Ryan Lake says this says, Nancy, you look good in shape. I appreciate that, brother. She really does. And also, this is from Ryan. He says, when did you started lifting weights in the gym? So, like, what's your like what when you start actually when you lifting weights in the gym, and what's your workouts like during the week in your training?
Yeah, so I mean, I've been, weight training for over 20 years, basically. And I usually, I don't know, I kind of take some experience that I've had with, CrossFit in terms of variety. So, one day I'll do something, heavy, and then, the next day I'll do something high volume, incorporate maybe some like kettlebell swings or something, really get the heart rate up, do a lot of reps. So I'm just all about like that variety. So I'm not like back and biceps, chest and triceps, um, kind of, I target all of those things, but I also add in some other things like ancillary tools, box jumps, different things to really kind of like jumpstart and, have that variety. I really like that um, concept, and really like the isolation, holds, volume. I mean, it really brings you past a certain point because we're pretty used to like traditional training. Uh, so I think that has really kind of opened up like a lot of for me to understand, and I think it's pretty effective.
Yeah, it's a process, especially training, working out, and building your body. You have to work on things that help in the process. Like your last show, because you did the Tampa, you won your class. What did you get any feedback from the judges and what they tell you that you needed? Because you were just doing 50 plus, but you didn't do open, so you just 50 plus. That was it.
Mhm.
Yeah. So what did
Yeah.
you get any feedback from the judges? What they tell you or what you need to work on?
Well, I don't know. I mean, honestly, since I've been like in the master's classes, I've always said, oh, maybe I should just do the opens, but I just keep hearing that, I have mature muscle, so it's not the same that, you have like more, I don't know, like I don't know
Density.
how to describe it, but more definition or sinew or something in your muscles than, someone that has like full, like, different kind of fuller muscle bodies. But there's like a difference in the way, people kind of, look at the age categories. And I'm not saying that there aren't people that are in Masters and Opens and they do really well. But, I think just from I guess what I've heard, that I really would stick to masters. Um, so I, just, have been kind of doing that category. And um, I didn't, really consider doing the opens, but I think, I don't know, I feel like people in your class are more similar to you, versus, going into an open category where, you have 20 somethings, 30 somethings competing, against you. It's kind of hard to get a higher, I guess, a higher placement in those classes, from my opinion, from what I've seen. And I'm not saying that it can't happen because I've seen people do it, but I think it might be harder as a general rule of thumb. So,
Well, I know quite a few ladies like who are probably around your age group that done pretty well. Sometimes genetics is a factor. You know, I know the body difference when it's ages. I know one lady I'm really cool with. Her name is Melanie Horton, and Melanie is around about your age. Her body's amazing. I think she's gonna be competing this year doing women's bodybuilding. She's been competing just as long as you have, and she started like about in the early '90s. She competed in the her debut was '99 at the Olympia with Iris Kyle. That was the year that Kim Zveski won, and she looks amazing. If you've never seen her, I'll send you a link and check her out. But I think anybody who wants the opportunity to compete, if you feel comfortable, yeah, that's cool. But I would say try it once and just see how you do. Sometimes you never know. You might beat out somebody. Even you might beat one of these young cats. These young, like these young tenderonis, and show them out. Say, hey, I'm coming here to play. I'm not playing to play. But
yeah,
that's why many ladies I've interviewed have been ladies of your age,
yeah.
and really I respect y'all because it takes a lot to do what
Mhm.
y'all do. Because
Well,
I remember one lady told me because the fact is it's not easy for y'all to do it compared to much younger competitors because when you get to a certain point in your life, things are not as expensive. Some way still it costs a bit, but then you don't have responsibilities of kids anymore. Your boy's grown. You really put your money where your mouth is, and you understand what it takes to invest in yourself as an athlete. And as you mentioned, your work with Shelby Starnes, and I interviewed quite a few ladies. I just interviewed one of your stablemates, Marilyn Yee, this last weekend. And he has I think he's probably one of the top guys when it comes to women. So when y'all get together.
yeah. So I had him, actually at the time that year, 2022, when I placed for second in three categories. I was just, kind of looking for change, and I reached out to him, and I think actually it was after I had done the Masters Nationals in 2023, and I felt like I didn't come in that good, and um, I just wasn't. I felt like I was holding water, and so I just, at that point, I reached out to him. I had been thinking about it in the past, and so he actually, between Masters Nationals and North Americans, which is like what, I know, 5 weeks or something like that.
Yeah, about a month
Uh,
apart.
so he did that time with me as far as prep, and it was unbelievable. I mean, I made so many changes just in that short amount of time, and was able to get my pro card. So I was like, stoked that he worked with me and made these adjustments, and could do that in 5 weeks. I think he called it emergency prep. So but yeah, it was great. And I think
So,
you had mentioned or asked a question about like judges feedback, and I think you know like the rear delts are they're so hard. Like that's one of the biggest things that I've tried to improve. But those little suckers are just, they're really hard to target, and genetically, like you said, certain things might grow for some people, but I have just like struggled to no end with those little guys. So
yeah, the
um,
fact he can't see him is good. You got like what's that?
yeah, yeah.
Because like
You never turn around, just walk forward.
yeah, because I know one thing. Somebody told me that the worst. I think someone's. I think somebody says the back is the one that takes them because it's really it can make or break how you do with shows. the tie-ins, the glutes, the quads, everything can look good, but you have to make sure that everything's just right, especially when the judges look at you, because they're the ones
Yeah.
who tell you how you're going to do. The feedback
Hmm.
is kind of important, but some competitors say, no, they don't take it because they know what the problem is. But it's good to have that other eye to see something that you don't see.
Yeah.
And like when you're training, what's that training? That what was that exercise to say? Ah, I love it. It's my favorite one of the day. And the other one says, "Damn, I gotta do that shit."
Well, it's funny because like when I was doing NPC shows, like regionally, I a lot of oftentimes see you probably know Jose Raymond, and he would recognize me and he'd say, "Oh, there's the lady with the quads," and I'm like, I don't want to be the lady with the quads. I want to be like overall package. I want to be, like the woman with the great physique. So I love training legs. What can I say? I mean, I've had to really adjust how I train them and just, rip them up and really high volume. But just, genetically, I mean, Eastern European, and we just have strong legs. So that's something I guess, you always like to train what responds. And that's something I still look forward to. And um, I would say just, like chest. And I don't know, I don't think that is as exciting to me to have to come in and do like chest and, you know, triceps, something like that. Um, it's just like those leg days are so killer because you're like, I feel this and this is amazing.
I know often leg day. Anybody who tell me they like leg day, I tell them you're a mutant, you're a freak. Who likes leg day? Leg day is like I keep saying it's my favorite episode of Chappelle's show, where Eddie Murphy talks about the time he met Rick James, and then they later go back to his brother
So,
Eddie's house. And Rick does the F your couch, Eddie Murphy, F your couch, and he beating his legs. And it's like, what are my legs? Darkness, you dark. That's for a bodybuilder. That's like that. You get your legs beat by Charlie Eddie Murphy. But, especially say Eastern European. I know a lady I interviewed a while back, she's Bulgarian and she turned pro that year, and she said that's her favorite thing. She loves doing the Bulgarian split squats. She know what that is. That is. She was doing with another competitor who was a Puerto Rican wellness competitor. It was her, the Bulgarian and the Puerto Rican doing split squats. But yeah, I think everybody got to work on their strengths, but also work on their weaknesses, because those are things that when you come to a show, you want to make improvements. You really want to, bring a certain level so you can be the best. Like I said, your last show, you came second a couple of divisions. You worked with Shelby. He got you your pro card, and and I know it was that feeling. Ladies who have told me that it's that feeling when you get that pro card when they announce your name and all that time, that work you put in it. What was that for you when they say you're not IFBB Pro?
yeah, I mean, it was, phenomenal because, you really don't know. I mean, during the prejudging and, you're kind of moving around like in the center, but then you're one away or you're one on either side. And, so you really not to get your hopes up. So, I mean, I just, I never am a person that says, oh, I've got it, or, people say I've got it, or anything like that. It's just at the end of the day, you don't know what, the results are going to be. So, when you're on the side and they're saying fifth place, fourth place, and then it's getting, whittled down, your group on your side, third place, and then it's you and the other person, and you're like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, you know, wait, bring it in, because it's you or her, and you don't know. So when they call the other person, second place, and it's just like, like you said, it's just all of that work and all of that effort and the commitment and I mean, I've done this for, many years, and so I didn't take it lightly. I mean, it was very meaningful that, I was finally the one. It was yeah, incredible. And then it's just kind of like surreal. Like, you know, you don't, is this really happening? And like with that interview, and it was kind of like looking back, it was like, wow, I don't, it's like I don't really remember a lot of pieces of that. And that guy's really big, by the way. I felt like a little shrimp. But
Yeah,
yeah, I mean, it's just, like all that time, work, energy, and it's, statistically, like, how small is that? The people that, go on. Like I said to my son, he was a big soccer player, wanted to do the D1. And, realistically, how many of those players go on to become pro? It's very small. So, I mean, that's, you know, what really kind of resonated with me was that, like, to achieve that, it's like, unbelievable. Like, if you know what it's all about. Um, so, yeah. And it doesn't matter how old you are, you know, um, just keep going for it.
yeah. Because I know a guy I've got. He's a friend of mine. He's IB pro. He played in the NFL for several years, and yeah, it's hard. My brother, he played football here in our hometown. He went to a college, but then he just got homesick, country boy. He wanted to come back here. Not everybody can make it, and that is experience for just that opportunity when they say, "Hey, you're not IB pro." And it's just, it used to be it was like harder to become a pro now, but it seems like there are a lot more qualifiers. And now you got masters put into that. You have the Masters Olympia coming up in a few months. It's really has a span. I interviewed some couple ladies who just got their pro cards at the Masters USA's because I think there's a growing population of women of mature ages getting into bodybuilding. I mean, ladies that either get into later life because life's changed, you want to get in shape, and they just found bodybuilding. Others who competed for a long time, and finally now there. I saw a couple ladies who made a return after having competed for almost 20 years.
Yeah.
And and it's good that that's a support for y'all, these opportunities for not